Hi, my name is Mia and welcome back to my YouTube channel. As you can already tell by the title of this video, today will be a little bit different from what I usually post on here, as I will be talking about my emetophobia experience, my journey, my story so far up to this point in my life, and also I'm going to hint at some things that I am hoping to improve in the future, steps I take to get better. So yeah, I'm gonna throw a little trigger warning right here in the beginning. I will be using the word sick and throwing up, and I will also be mentioning some stories. Not in any great detail, so don't worry, but I just want to put this out here in case you're in a very anxious and vulnerable situation right now. Then you might not want to watch this video right this second. Maybe come back later when you feel a bit better. But yeah, if you stick around, then maybe grab a cup of tea because this will be a longer video. It's been 23 years of my life, so a lot to pack into this one video. And yeah, maybe, I don't know, put this video on in the background as like a podcast type of thing while you're cleaning or whatever you do, or out for a walk. I try to make it a little bit more entertaining for you with this beautiful background here at the beach. I hope the wind doesn't bother you too much, that the audio is not horrible because of it. But yeah, without further ado, let me start in the very beginning. And I, for one, know exactly where my phobia came from. Not everyone does, so if you have no idea, then that's okay. You're not alone. But for me, there was a very, very specific event that caused me to develop this phobia, which was back in kindergarten, when every single kid in my group, except for my best friend and I, ate some spoiled ice cream. And within a few minutes, everyone was sick just all around me. And that was just very, very traumatizing. And from that point on, I was very scared of, being sick. And I don't really have any more emetophobia related memories for kindergarten. I was still very, very young. But moving into elementary school was quite rough for me because a lot of my classmates would just get sick in class. One time even my teacher did, and that just made me very anxious when it came to attending school. It got so bad that at one point I had this phase where I would wake up with an upset stomach every single morning before school, and I didn't want to go there. At the time I had no idea. I couldn't really put two and two together. I didn't know that my upset stomach and my anxiety came from people being sick. But yeah, my parents kind of tolerated that for a while. Some days they let me stay home, others they forced me to go to school. But yeah, it came to the point where they sent me to therapy because it was just lasting way too long, this phase of mine. And I don't really think therapy helped at all. No one ever discovered the emetophobia aspect of it. But what I believe helped me eventually was just the passing of time. Just having months and months of no one being sick kind of, put my mind at ease. And eventually I was able to attend school just like everyone else around me. Other than those times where someone would get sick or I would get sick, in which case I would just be sweating and shaking in bed, hoping so bad that I wouldn't throw up. Or when other people around me were sick, like my parents or my brothers, I would just lay in bed, cover my ears, close my eyes, and again just sweating and shaking, waiting for it to be over and just hoping that it wouldn't be contagious, that I wouldn't be sick myself. In those times when other people in my house were sick, I would pretty much quarantine in my room. I wouldn't leave unless I absolutely had to, until I felt that it was safe again to leave my room, until there was no longer any exposure to germs that would get me sick. But I just remember eating very little during those times, again just because I didn't want to put food in my stomach that I might possibly throw up. And when I actually had to leave my room for just using the restroom, brushing my teeth, those types of things, I remember pulling up my shirt like this, kind of like a mask in a way, hoping that would protect me from germs and keep me safe. So yeah, and then I actually remember my first emetophobia related full-on panic attack was when my grandparents took my cousins and me to Disneyland, and I had been eating a ton of sweets, as you do as a kid, especially in Disneyland. It was exciting, and we were going to attend this show, and I just started feeling so anxious. I felt like I couldn't breathe, I was sweating, I was just really uncomfortable and nauseous until my grandpa made the sacrifice to leave the show with me, so we both missed it. Still feel bad for that, but the second I was out of that crowded space and just breathing fresh air, I felt a whole lot better. So yeah, that was my first like childhood panic attack. Now, when it came to high school, my kind of like restrictive behaviors just became more and more plentiful. I would just avoid more and more foods, things that made me sick in the past, or things that other people were eating before they were sick. I would restrict the amount of food that I would eat, the times when I would eat, and I would also carry around hand sanitizer with me everywhere I went, which mind you, that was before COVID times, so pretty unheard of at the time. But yeah, I would just make sure to be safe from all those germs that could potentially get me sick. And then in my 11th year of high school, I actually did an exchange year. I went from Germany to the US for 1 year, and that was in the beginning was a pretty hard time for me as well, because obviously there's a lot of changes. You're in a whole different environment with a different family that you've never seen before, never interacted with. You're surrounded by a lot of new foods that I wasn't used to. So that was pretty hard, but on top of that, my first two host families also had a lot of internal issues, and I was just kind of thrown in the middle of that, which didn't help any of us. So yeah, I was just always anxious. My stomach was upset a lot from like greasy fast foods, and just in general I felt pretty bad because I was oftentimes forced to eat things that I didn't necessarily want to eat, and sometimes I would even get sick from them. So that was pretty hard. Then I actually had my second ever full-on panic attack when it came to switching host families for the second time, and that was far worse than the first one. I had really bad diarrhea, I was dizzy, I felt like I was gonna throw up, I felt like I was gonna pass out, and just everything going on around me, any kind of stimulation, whether that was colors or noise or smells, was just really, really overwhelming to me. And that was a very, very scary time, and it lasted for like half the day, and the only thing that could really alleviate that anxiety was whenever I would go to the school nurse and I would just be in a quiet, dark room without any stimulation around me. So yeah, that was pretty bad. Then I was in my third host family. Everything was great, except that I did get a heat stroke in the hot El Paso sun, and I actually handled that one pretty well. My anxiety wasn't too high. I pretty quickly recovered from it. It only took me like 2 days until I started eating again, which is pretty good for my standards. But yeah, then I went back home, and German school was just a lot of distractions. I was attending school, doing homework, studying, preparing presentations, and then working little jobs on the weekend. So I was pretty busy, and my anxiety wasn't that high. My emetophobia kind of ebbed to the side a little bit again. I always found that in the moments in my life where I was the busiest, my thoughts couldn't spiral to emetophobia related anxiety. So yeah, then after high school I moved to America to be with my husband, and he was stationed in Minot, North Dakota at the time, so that's where I went, a whole different side of the US. I went from the border of Mexico to the border of Canada, and yeah, Minot was just not a very ideal place for us in general. It was very cold, very isolating, and yeah, the people living there just had different mentalities from ours, so it was pretty lonely up there. And not even a year after I had just moved to America, my husband actually got orders to go to South Korea for 13 months by himself. And the anticipation of that brought up a lot of anxiety again. And that was also right around the time where I learned that my fear of throwing up actually had a name. So yeah, that really helped. I started opening up to first my husband, then some friends and family, and eventually, as I was just having more and more anxiety and panic attacks every day, I reached a breaking point shortly before Julio had to leave. And that was when I woke up in the middle of the night feeling sick. I thought I was gonna be sick, and yeah, I couldn't breathe. I was just panicking so much that I woke up Julio and I begged him to take me to the hospital, which he graciously did. But surprise, I could not get myself to go into the hospital because I was scared that other people in the hospital would be sick. So yeah, we spent pretty much the entire night in the hospital parking lot, and I was just, yeah, shaking and panicking the whole time. Did not get sick though, but it was pretty rough in general. My anxiety was pretty high, and my emetophobia just got worse and worse. And after that experience, I was pretty much on edge every single day. My body was shaking pretty much non-stop, and I had to admit to myself that it was time to see a therapist because I just couldn't do it by myself anymore. And that was a pretty big step for me because I have always kind of taken pride in trying to fix things myself without the help of others. I was pretty resistant to the idea of, yeah, getting help from a therapist, which is completely stupid of me. I don't know why I ever thought that, and I hope that you don't have that mindset because therapy really can help. Now the only thing is, Minot is not a very big place, so not a lot of therapists. And I found one that had availabilities, but he had never even heard of emetophobia, so again, it didn't really help in terms of emetophobia, but it did help with the overall anxiety of just, yeah, being alone, not being able to have a job because I was still waiting on my green card, and just basically being in a big empty house in a very lonely state by myself all the time, because Julio then had to, yeah, leave to Korea right around the time that COVID started, which just made things significantly worse. Yeah, because the uncertainty in the beginning of COVID, I'm sure everyone remembers that. And yeah, it just ended up being so rough. I lost a lot of weight to the point where I could barely walk up the stairs anymore because I just didn't have the energy for it. And I would sometimes even have to leave the grocery store because I would just have too much anxiety being surrounded by all this food, and just like imagining putting anything in my stomach was just unbearable for me at the time. And that was kind of also the height of my my safety behaviors. I would constantly scan the room around me, would look out for anyone who might look sick, even if they just so much as bend over to tie their shoes. I would, yeah, my heart would stop and then just start racing, and I would, yeah, panic about that, and I would constantly look for trash cans and bathrooms anywhere I went, just to be safe. And yeah, I never leave the house without ginger pills and other antiemetic medication, and yeah, my water bottle, so I could have a way to take that medication. And yeah, just generally being very restrictive with my food. I would only eat very bland foods at the time, which was not very nourishing. So yeah, that was pretty much a very rough year for me altogether, those 13 months. Once I was reunited with Julio here in Spain, things started getting better again. I had emotional support from him again. I had the encouragement to eat more things. I also felt obligated, of course, to cook more healthy meals and just a lot of food to feed him because of course I didn't want him to starve alongside me. So yeah, that encouraged me and gave me the strength to eat a lot more myself. And step by step I would start eating out in restaurants again and just trying a bigger variety of foods again. And yeah, things were just progressively getting better and better until one day I actually did get sick for the first time in 6 years at that point. And that was again a very traumatic experience for me. Leading up to that, I thought I was doing better with my emetophobia. I was kind of ready for it to come. I was ready to get over this fear, but it just ended up being very, very horrible for me. Way worse than I had imagined it. And I'm not trying to scare you here, because I realized that every experience of being sick is different, and this one was just very unpleasant for me. So in about the 3 months after that, I was just again constantly on edge and very, very anxious and having panic attacks like every day or every other day. And so once again I came to the conclusion that I couldn't do it by myself anymore. So I went to our doctor here and I asked for a spot in therapy, but there are none here. But she did prescribe me some anti-anxiety medication, which has really, really helped me just to take the edge of things when I'm very, very anxious. And I was also diagnosed with IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, which then kind of explained a lot of things, a lot of intolerances to certain foods. And also I ordered this book called The Emetophobia Manual. It's written by Ken Goodman, a therapist that specializes in emetophobia, and I'm about halfway through now. It's basically explaining the psychology behind emetophobia, and then just has a lot of little exposure things within the book. So I've been slowly but surely making my way through this and trying to drop some of my safety behaviors. And I'm just very, very hopeful that I will someday get over this, because I am so tired of just having this fear control my life that much. I'm exhausted by it. I don't want my fear to get in the way of life anymore. I want to be the one in charge, and so that's what I've been doing. I've also been meditating a lot, and that has also been super revolutionary. Now I will say that it took me almost 2 years to get to like my meditation breakthrough. After 2 years I was finally able to truly feel every part of my body, which has really, really helped, because now whenever I do feel anxious and I feel nauseous, I can like scan through my body and actually identify where that nausea might be coming from. And I mean, almost 100% of the time my nausea is just kind of in my head and there's actually nothing wrong with my stomach. So meditation has really helped as well. And alongside meditating, I have also been able to identify certain patterns throughout my menstrual cycle, and that has also really helped easing my anxiety, because I have noticed for myself that in the first 2 weeks of my cycle I tend to feel much, much more nauseous, which is probably from the hormones during that time, versus the second half of my cycle where I am pretty much fine and I get way less anxious. So just being able to identify these patterns and just knowing more about myself and my body has really, really helped. I've come a huge step from the time where I couldn't tell apart whether I was actually feeling nauseous and sick, or I was just bloated, or I was digesting food, or even when I was hungry, I just, like, all these feelings felt the same to me and just gave me a lot of anxiety. And now I'm much more able to tell those apart, which is huge for me. So yeah, moving forward, I will continue to work through this. The exposures are getting harder and harder, but like I said, I'm just tired of this phobia controlling my life. So if this is what I have to do, I will continue to do it, no matter how scary it is. And yeah, just continue meditating and also adjusting my diet to my IBS diagnosis has been huge as well, because now I actually know which foods cause me digestive issues. So again, when I do feel something off with my stomach, I just can think back to what I ate throughout the day and yeah, maybe identify some things that may have caused that upset stomach that is not a virus or food poisoning. So yeah, thank you for sticking around till the very end. Yeah, I hope this helped you. I sure wish I would have seen a video like this way sooner, just to know that I'm not alone. Emetophobia is a very common phobia. The only reason we don't know about it is because people don't talk about it. So I'm trying to change that here. And yeah, wherever you are, at whatever point in your recovery you are, my heart goes out to you. Feel free to share any kinds of tips that helped you on your journey in the comments below, so we can all profit from your wisdom. And yeah, thanks again for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day.